If you're watching this video, it's no coincidence. Your life is about to undergo the biggest quantum shift you've ever imagined. And the most shocking thing is that it's already begun. You feel it, don't you? That weight in your chest, the feeling that something is profoundly wrong, that you're trapped in a never-ending cycle. You think it's depression, anxiety, or just life being difficult. But what if I told you it's none of that? What if I told you that this pain, this chaos, is actually a sign that you've been activated? Pay close attention. What you're feeling isn't the end. It's the beginning of your return. The universe is breaking your current reality for one simple reason. The life you are living is too small for the person you're destined to become. This feeling of disruption isn't punishment. It's a forced upgrade. And in this video, I'm not just going to explain what's happening. I'm going to show you the 7 secret phases of this transformation. Phases that ancient sages knew but have kept hidden from you. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal exactly how to use this chaos to manifest a new reality. And you'll understand why everything you lost had to be taken from you. This isn't self-help. It's an instruction manual for your rebirth. If you feel ready for this change, comment below. My return has begun. Within each of us, there are 2 worlds, light and shadow. The light is the part you show to everyone. Your smile, your achievements, your apparent strength. It's the social mask you've learned to wear to be accepted and loved. But the shadow is everything you hide, even from yourself. It's your deepest fears, your regrets, your contained anger, your secret envy, and the pain you never dared to name. And the truth is, your return only begins when you stop running from it. That shadow, which you were taught to fear and repress, is not your enemy. On the contrary, it is the guardian of the key to your true power. It contains all the strength you gave up to conform, all the passion you silenced for fear of being judged. Perhaps now you feel lost, not recognizing yourself in the mirror, because your old identity, based only on light, no longer holds up. The things that once gave you pleasure now seem empty, because your soul is calling you to a deeper dive, a return home. Think about all your failures, all the heartbreaks, all the rejections you've suffered. What if none of it was random? What if each of those painful experiences was, in fact, a mirror? A mirror that the universe placed before you to reflect the parts of your shadow that you refuse to see, the limiting beliefs that still sabotage you, the childhood wounds that still bleed, the behavioral patterns that keep you trapped in the same cycle of pain. Life wasn't punishing you, it was showing you the way. The great psychologist Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your shadow is this unconscious. While you ignore it, it controls your decisions, attracts the same situations, and keeps you hostage to the past. But the moment you decide to look at it, you regain control. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your reality. What you hide from yourself is not a monster to be avoided, but a teacher to be listened to. Facing your shadow is an act of courage. It means admitting to yourself that you feel envy, that you harbor resentment, that you're afraid of not being good enough. It means accepting the parts of yourself that aren't perfect, that aren't admirable. But it is precisely in this acceptance that healing resides. When you embrace your shadow, it stops haunting you and becomes your ally. The energy you used to spend suppressing these feelings can now be used to build an authentic life. The pain you feel now is the call of your shadow. It's telling you it's time to stop pretending. It's time to be whole, not perfect. It's time to integrate all parts of yourself, those you love and those you reject. Because true strength doesn't come from being flawless, but from being complete. You don't need to get rid of your darkness. You need to learn to dance with it. It has valuable lessons to teach you about your limits, your desires, and your true nature. Therefore, do not fear what you will find in this inner journey. Every fear you face, every wound you embrace, transforms into wisdom. You are being invited to a process of alchemy of the soul, where the lead of your pain is transformed into the gold of your consciousness. And this journey of looking inward is only the beginning of an even deeper breaking, a necessary breaking, so that you can be fully rebuilt. A process that ancient traditions knew as a sacred dismemberment. This process of breaking down goes beyond simply facing one's fears. In many shamanic traditions, the initiation of a future healer involved a terrifying experience. Ritual dismemberment. In visions or deep trances, the initiate saw their own body being torn apart by spirits. Their bones were cleaned, their organs replaced, and they were completely fragmented. It was a symbolic death, a radical breaking of the self. And only after this total dissolution was the initiate reconstructed, reborn with new powers and a new understanding of life and death. What you are experiencing now is a modern form of this sacred dismemberment. Life isn't just breaking your plans or your dreams. It's dismembering your very perception of who you are. Every relationship that ends, every failure that humiliates you, every loss that empties you is not an isolated event. It's an act in this cosmic ritual of transformation. You are being broken down into your most basic components so that you can be reassembled in a stronger, wiser way, more aligned with your true essence. Think of the phoenix, the mythical bird that is reborn from its own ashes. For rebirth to occur, it must first burn completely. There is no resurrection in a lukewarm bonfire. Total surrender to the fire of transformation is necessary. You are in that fire now. It seems like you are losing everything, but in reality, you are only losing the weight that prevented you from flying. You are losing the masks, the expectations of others, and the false beliefs that formed your old identity. Society teaches us to fear breakage. We see fragmentation as a sign of weakness, a collapse to be avoided at all costs. But in wisdom traditions, breakage is a sacred act. It is the only way for the new to enter. As the poet Rumi said, "It is through the cracks that the light enters." Your pain is not a flaw in the system. It is the system itself working to elevate you. Your breakage is not a failure. It is an initiation. And the intensity of this breakage is directly proportional to the magnitude of your resurrection. Each piece that falls away from you is not a loss, but a space that opens up to the light. Each certainty that dissolves is an opportunity for a greater truth to reveal itself. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the illusions that covered you. It is a painful process, yes, because the ego fights to survive. It clings to what is familiar, even if that familiarity is pain. But your soul yearns for freedom, and to be free, the old self must die. This dismemberment is not a punishment, it is a preparation. You are being emptied of everything that is not yours, so that you can be filled with what you truly are. It is a deep cleansing, a purification that prepares you to receive a new level of consciousness and power. The person you were before could not withstand the life energy that is destined for you. Therefore, you need to be broken and remade, forged in the fire of adversity to become a vessel worthy of your own greatness. Do not resist this process. Surrender to the fire. Trust that, even in the midst of chaos, there is a higher order at work. You are not being abandoned. You are being held by the universe as you undergo the deepest of transformations. Every piece of you that seems lost will be returned to you, not as it was before, but purified and strengthened. And it is in this moment of surrender that you begin to understand the true intelligence behind all this suffering. This complete breakdown may seem chaotic and meaningless, but it operates with surgical precision. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy, there is a word for it, dukkha. Often translated as suffering, its meaning is much deeper. It describes the fundamental dissatisfaction of life, the feeling that something is always out of place, the impermanence of everything. Buddha taught that life is dukkha not as a pessimistic sentence, but as an accurate diagnosis. Suffering is not an accident, but an inherent part of unexamined existence. The pain you feel now has a strange and powerful intelligence. Its function is to remove everything false from your life. It burns the bridges that lead you to places that no longer serve you. It drives away people who don't vibrate at your new frequency. It destroys dreams that weren't truly yours, but were imposed by society or your family. Pain is a purifier. It leaves you only with what is real, with what is essential, yourself, in your most naked and authentic form. And when you finally look at yourself in the mirror, without masks and without excuses, something magical happens. You stop asking the victim's question, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking the learner's question, "What is this trying to teach me?" At that moment, your perspective changes completely. Every obstacle ceases to be a barrier and becomes a lesson. Every loss ceases to be a tragedy and becomes a redirection. Every failure transforms into an initiation, to a new level of wisdom. You are not the same person you were a year ago, or even a month ago. You went through fire. You cried yourself to sleep, and yet you found the strength to get up the next day. This is not weakness. It is the purest form of evolution. Every tear you shed watered the soil of your soul, preparing it to flourish in a way you never imagined possible. Suffering is not a random punishment from the universe. It is coded information, precise feedback on where you are misaligned with your own truth. Think of suffering as an alarm. When the fire alarm goes off, you don't get angry at the noise. You're grateful that it warns you of the danger and forces you to leave the building. Your pain is that alarm. It's telling you that the way you were living, the beliefs you held, the relationships you maintained, were slowly destroying you. It forces you to abandon your comfort zone, which was actually a zone of stagnation, and to seek a path more aligned with your purpose. When you understand this, pain becomes your ally. You stop fighting it and start listening to it. What is this anxiety telling me about my need for control? What is this sadness showing me about what I truly value? What is this anger revealing about my boundaries that have been disrespected? Pain becomes a map that guides you back home, back to your center, to your inner truth. This shift in perception is the first step in breaking free from the cycle of suffering. You realize that it's not the pain, but the awareness that observes the pain. And by doing so, you create a space between yourself and your experience. In this space, the pain loses its power over you. It may still exist, but it no longer defines you. And it is in this silence, in this space of observation, that you prepare for the most challenging phase of the journey. Total darkness, where even this understanding seems to disappear. There is a point in the soul's journey that mystics of all ages have both feared and revered. It is not merely sadness or melancholy. It is a state of spiritual desolation so profound that all lights seem to go out. The Spanish mystic Saint John of the Cross gave it its most well-known name, the dark night of the soul. It is the moment when the faith that once sustained you becomes a distant memory. The connection with the divine, with the universe, transforms into a deafening silence, and you feel completely and utterly alone, abandoned by everything and everyone. This is the spiritual desert in its most arid form. At this stage, the soul is purified not by what it does, but by what is done to it. It is a passive purification, where its only task is to endure absence. You pray, and your words echo in the void. You seek a sign, and find only silence. You try to cling to old beliefs, to spiritual practices that once brought you comfort, but nothing works. It is the moment when the ego, deprived of any solace or validation, begins to starve. Many give up here. They believe they've lost their way, that God has abandoned them, that all their effort was in vain. But this is not a phase of punishment, but rather one of profound intimacy. It's the universe asking you the most difficult question of all. Will you still seek me when I give you nothing in return? Do you love the light, or do you only love the sensation that the light provides? It's a final test to see if your faith depends on external rewards, or if it has become an inner flame, capable of shining in total darkness. It is the darkness that precedes the true dawn. It forces you to generate your own light, a light that is no longer reflected from an external source, such as a guru, a book, or a religion, but that is born from your own indestructible essence. In total darkness, when there is nothing left to see outside, something within you, something ancient and primordial that was dormant, begins to shine on its own. You discover a strength you didn't know you possessed, a resilience forged in silence and solitude. This phase is crucial because it burns away the last vestiges of your spiritual ego, the ego that prided itself on being evolved, that felt special for having a connection with the divine. In the dark night of the soul, all of that is reduced to ashes. You are humbled on a deep level, forced to confront your own insignificance before the mystery of existence. And it is in this humility, in this total surrender, that true grace can finally enter. You stop trying to control your spiritual journey and learn to be guided. If you are in this place now, know that you are on sacred ground. Do not fight the emptiness. Do not try to fill it with distractions. Just breathe into it. Allow yourself to feel the abandonment, the loneliness, the despair. They are the agents of your final purification. Trust that, even in the deepest silence, you are being heard. Even in the most complete darkness, you are being guided. This is the final death of your false self, the last step before your true rebirth. The dark night of the soul doesn't last forever. It's a tunnel, not a cave. And when you emerge on the other side, the light you find isn't the same as before. It's a more real light, more stable, more your own. You no longer believe in the light, you become the light. And this transformation prepares you to understand one of the oldest secrets of creation, a process that alchemists called Nigredo, the first and most feared stage of the Great Work. Ancient alchemists spoke of a mysterious process called the Great Work, the legendary transformation of lead into gold. But the true secret was never in the metals. It was always about the human soul. The first phase, and the most feared of all, was Nigredo, or blackening. It is the moment of dissolution, of putrefaction, where the original matter, your ancient self, is reduced to primordial chaos. It is the conscious descent into your own underworld, not as a curious tourist, but as a necessary sacrifice. Consider the story of the Sumerian goddess Inanna. To find her dark sister in the realm of the dead, she had to strip herself of all her symbols of power at each of the 7 gates she passed through. Her robe, her crown, her rings, her identity. She arrived at the heart of the underworld completely naked and vulnerable. And there, she was killed. Only after this symbolic death, this total surrender, could she be resurrected and return to the surface, more powerful and complete than ever. You're in your own Nigredo. Life is stripping you of all your certainties, all your masks, everything you thought you were. It's a purifying fire that burns not to destroy, but to refine. It seems like you're losing everything, but in reality, you're only losing the weight that prevented you from flying. This process of dissolving the ego is not annihilation, but liberation. It's the death of the identity that was built on fear, the need for approval, and conformity to the expectations of others. In the vacuum left by this death, something far more authentic begins to breathe. It is your true essence, your higher self, which was suffocated beneath the layers of your false self. Each piece of your life that disintegrates is not a loss, but a space that opens up so that this new consciousness can emerge. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the illusions that covered and limited you. Nigredo is the return to the zero state, to the point of pure potential from which everything can be recreated. This is the stage of not knowing. You no longer know who you are, where you're going, or what the purpose of all this is. And that's scary. We've been programmed to have all the answers, to have a plan, to be in control. But true transformation only happens when you surrender to the mystery, when you trust the process even without understanding where it's leading you. Nigredo teaches you to have faith in the darkness, to find comfort in the unknown. It is in this primordial chaos that the seeds of your new life are planted. Just as the earth needs to be plowed and turned over before new planting, your soul needs to be stirred up so that the old weeds are pulled out by the root. It is a dirty, messy, and painful process, but absolutely essential. Without Nigredo, there can be no Albedo, purification. Without darkness, there can be no true light. You are being reduced to nothing so that you can become everything. Don't try to rush this phase. Don't try to find logical answers for what is happening. The language of Nigredo is not that of the mind, but that of the soul. Just allow the dissolution to happen. Trust that you are being undone to be remade in a much more magnificent way. And it is precisely at this point of total surrender, when you stop fighting, that you discover the greatest power that exists, the power to collapse reality with your own consciousness. At the beginning of the 20th century, physics took a turn that shook the foundations of our understanding of reality. By delving into the subatomic world, scientists discovered a universe that defied all common sense logic. And one of their most profound and disturbing findings is the observer effect. In essence, it reveals that, at the quantum level, the simple act of observing a particle directly influences its behavior. Reality, it seems, is not a passive spectacle that we watch, but an interactive dance in which we are the main partner. Before being measured or observed, a particle like an electron does not exist in a specific place. It exists in a state of pure potentiality, a cloud of probabilities of being in multiple places at the same time. It is the act of observation, the focus of consciousness, that forces this cloud of possibilities to collapse into a single point, into a defined and real state. Now, transport this revolutionary idea from the physics laboratory to your inner universe, to your own life. The storm you face, the pain, the chaos, the loss, is not an objective, solid, and immutable entity. It is a quantum cloud of potentialities. And you, with your consciousness, are the observer who collapses this cloud into a specific reality. By incessantly focusing on the narrative of destruction, loss, and failure, you are, with the power of your attention, solidifying this reality. By identifying with the role of victim, you give it form, substance, and continuity in your life. But what happens when you shift the focus of your observation? What happens when, instead of looking at what is being lost, you begin to observe what is being revealed? What happens when you stop identifying with the storm and realize that you are the sky that contains it? The storm is merely a passing event within your infinite consciousness. It may be noisy and frightening, but it is not you. You are the silent and unchanging space where the storm takes place. By becoming aware that you are the observer and not the observed, you reclaim power in a way you never imagined possible. You stop being a leaf in the wind of fate and become the wind itself. You may not control external events, but you have the absolute power to choose the meaning you attribute to them. And it is in this choice, in this act of directing your consciousness, that the power to transform poison into nectar, lead into gold, resides. This is the greatest quantum shift of your life, the realization that you are not a passive participant in your reality, but its active creator. Your consciousness is the most powerful force in the universe. Where you place your focus, you place your energy. And what you energize grows and manifests. You are not in the storm. You decide what the storm means. It can be a curse that destroys you or a blessing that rebuilds you. The choice has always been and always will be yours. From today onward, begin to observe your life in a new way. Observe the synchronicities, the small blessings, the moments of peace. Place your attention on what is being born, not on what is dying. Focus on the strength you are gaining, not on the pain you are feeling. By doing this, you are not denying reality. You are choosing which reality to manifest. You are using the power of the quantum observer to collapse the cloud of potentialities into an experience of growth, healing, and rebirth. This perception that you are the observer is not just a philosophical idea. It has a real, physical basis happening inside your brain right now. For centuries, science believed that the adult brain was a fixed structure that, after a certain age, became immutable. But modern neuroscience has discovered a revolutionary truth: neuroplasticity. This means that your brain is incredibly malleable, capable of reorganizing itself, creating new neural connections, and adapting in direct response to your experiences, and more importantly, to your thoughts. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, is not something ethereal that simply disappears. Each one sends electrical signals that physically carve pathways within your brain. Prolonged suffering, chronic anxiety, trauma are not just painful memories. They are neurological events that have created veritable neural highways to fear and hopelessness. That's why reacting with anxiety or pessimism has become so automatic for you. Your brain has been trained for it, day after day. But here's the game-changing promise. The same mechanism that created these pain pathways can and will create new pathways of healing. When you choose, even in the midst of chaos, to focus on a new perspective, like that of the observer, you're not just engaging in superficial positive thinking. You're acting as a neural engineer. You're literally giving your brain the command to build new roads, new circuits that lead to calm, clarity, and resilience. Resilience, this capacity to recover from life's storms, is not an abstract moral quality that some people have and others don't. It's the physical result of successful neuroplasticity. It's proof that your brain has adapted to adversity and found a new way of operating, stronger and more efficient. What you are experiencing is not just a journey of the soul. It's a real-time neurological reconstruction project. Pain is forcing your brain to abandon old circuits that no longer serve you. While you suffer, your brain is rewiring itself. The person who emerges on the other side of this phase will have a mind literally forged in the fire of transformation. The old triggers that once threw you into spirals of panic will lose their power. The situations that paralyzed you will be seen with new clarity. This is not magic, it's science. You are using your consciousness to reshape the very physical structure that generates your thoughts and emotions. You are rebuilding yourself from the inside out, neuron by neuron. This internal reconstruction is the foundation for everything that will come next. You can't build a new life on top of old wiring. First, the wiring needs to be replaced, and that's exactly what's happening now. Every time you choose observation instead of reaction, you strengthen a new neural pathway. Every time you take a deep breath instead of exploding, you weaken the old pattern. You are actively participating in your own evolution. And what happens when this internal reconstruction reaches a critical point? What happens when the new wiring becomes the dominant system? Your perception of reality begins to change so drastically that the chaos of the past begins to make sense. The darkness of Nigredo begins to give way to a new phase, a blinding clarity that alchemists called Albedo, purification. After the total darkness of Nigredo, where everything was dissolved, the alchemist watched with reverence the emergence of the next phase, Albedo, the whitening. From the black ashes of his former identity, a soft whiteness, like moonlight, begins to emerge. This is the sign that the matter of his soul has been purified of its impurities. It is the calm that comes after the storm, the first light of dawn after the longest and darkest night you have ever faced. It is the moment when confusion and chaos begin to give way to a clarity you haven't felt in a long time. Suddenly, you look back at the chaos you've lived through, and for the first time, you begin to glimpse a pattern. The puzzle pieces that seem to have been thrown together at random begin to fit together, forming a mosaic of profound and perfect meaning. You understand why certain people had to leave your life. You realize why certain doors had to close. What once seemed like a series of cruel and random events now reveals itself as a divinely orchestrated sequence of events, designed to lead you exactly to where you are now. The pain may still be present, but it is no longer chaotic and overwhelming. It becomes a clean pain, a pain that has been understood. The anger that once consumed you transmutes into healthy boundaries and the ability to say no. The deep sadness that drowned you transforms into genuine compassion, first for yourself and then for others. You begin to experience a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that does not depend on anything outside, but springs from a newly discovered and unshakable inner center. The people who left your life are no longer seen as losses, but as liberators of space, who open the way for the new to arrive. The doors that closed in your face are no longer seen as rejections, but as divine redirections, protecting you from paths that were not meant for you. What was just noise and confusion in your mind begins to organize itself into a silent symphony, revealing a perfect pattern that was always there, waiting to be seen by your new consciousness. This Albedo phase is the sigh of the soul that has survived the fire and discovers itself clean, bright, and ready for the next stage of its ascension. You stop fighting against the current of life and realize, with shocking serenity, that it has always been leading you home. You forgive the past, not because it didn't hurt, but because you now understand its purpose. You forgive yourself for not knowing what you know now. It's a deep cleansing of all the emotional debris you've carried for so long. This mental and emotional clarity is a direct result of your neurological reconstruction. Your brain, now rewired, can process life's information in a completely new way. You are no longer reacting from past traumas, but responding from a conscious presence. You feel lighter, as if a huge weight has been lifted from your shoulders. Life begins to flow more easily, and you feel safe, even without knowing exactly what the future holds. This new vision, this inner peace, prepares you for a symbolic yet powerful return. You descended into your own hell, faced your demons, and survived. Now, you are ready to return to the surface, but not as the same person who descended. You return as someone who knows the mysteries of darkness and light, like the ancient goddess Persephone, bringing with you the treasures of the underworld. In Greek mythology, the story of Persephone is one of the most powerful allegories about transformation. Daughter of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, she was the personification of spring, joy, and innocence. One day, she is abducted by Hades, the god of the underworld, and taken to the depths of the earth to become his queen. Her mother, in despair, plunges the world into a harsh winter where nothing grows anymore. An agreement is finally reached. Persephone will spend part of the year on the surface, bringing spring and summer, and part in the underworld, alongside Hades, bringing autumn and winter. Her story is not about a passive victim. It is the story of an initiate. Persephone doesn't just visit the realm of death, she becomes its sovereign. She learns the mysteries of the depths, the wisdom that can only be found in darkness, silence, and loss. She integrates the complete cycle of life and death within herself. You, like Persephone, have been drawn into your own underworld. You didn't choose this descent, but were chosen by it for a profound initiation. And now, your journey back to the surface begins. But you do not return as the same person who descended. You are no longer the naive maiden who gathered flowers on the surface, oblivious to the depths of existence. You are the queen or the king who ruled in the darkness. You carry in your eyes the wisdom of those who have seen what lies behind the veil of everyday reality. You have learned to navigate pain, to find beauty in melancholy, and to command your own inner demons instead of being commanded by them. Your return to the surface is not an escape from the underworld, but an integration with it. You bring with you the treasures of darkness, resilience, emotional depth, keen intuition, and a compassion that can only be born from the experience of suffering. That is why your future joy will have a depth you did not know before. Your love will be more authentic, your strength more unwavering. You are no longer afraid of the darkness, because you have been there and discovered that it too is part of the divine. You now carry seeds that can only germinate in those who have visited the depths and eaten from the fruit of knowledge of the complete cycle of life and death. You understand that life is not only light and happiness, but a constant cycle of death and rebirth. And this understanding gives you a stability that nothing and no one can shake. You become a bridge between the two worlds, capable of living in the light without forgetting the lessons of darkness. This integration is what makes you powerful. You no longer reject any part of your experience. You honor both your pain and your joy, knowing that both were necessary to forge you into who you are today. You are no longer a fragmented person, living only half of your truth. You are moving towards wholeness, towards completeness. You become someone who can celebrate spring, but who does not fear the arrival of winter, because you know that it too has its gifts. But how to integrate this new strength, this wisdom from the depths, without fragmenting again. How to harmoniously unite the light and shadow within oneself. This is the next step in your journey, a process that psychologist Carl Jung called individuation, the path to becoming whole. Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping the soul's journey toward wholeness, a process he called individuation. And the goal is not to achieve perfection, but completeness. It is the sacred art of integrating the opposites that exist within you, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, joy and pain, strength and vulnerability. You cannot become whole if you continue to pretend that everything is all right. if you continue to amputate the parts of yourself that society or you yourself consider unacceptable. The journey into the depths you have just undertaken was the path of individuation in its rawest and most potent form. The sacred dismemberment shattered your false identities. The dark night of the soul purified your superficial attachments. The descent into the underworld of Nigredo forced you to confront your shadow face to face. Now, the work is no longer about breaking, but about integration. It is about looking at each fragment, each shard of your old life, and recognizing it as yours, as a valuable part of your history. You begin to understand that your anger is not something to be suppressed, but the guardian of your boundaries. The force that says enough. Your sadness is not a weakness, but proof of your immense capacity to love and connect. Your fear is not an enemy to be conquered, but a wise advisor pointing exactly to where you need to grow and expand. Every part of you, even the darkest, has a gift, a sacred function in your process of becoming whole. Becoming whole is not about eliminating darkness. It's about igniting a light so bright within yourself that the darkness becomes merely an outline, a frame that further enhances your brilliance. It's when you stop fighting against yourself and begin to work with all your parts. You become the master of your own house, the alchemist who knows how to use each ingredient, bitter or sweet, to create the elixir of life. And a natural consequence of this process is that you stop needing external validation. You no longer seek the applause of others because you have finally applauded yourself internally. You stop searching for a love that completes you because you discover, with overwhelming certainty, that you are already complete. Any love that comes from the outside is just a bonus, a reflection of the fullness you have already found within yourself. The desperate search for approval simply dissolves. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been, beneath the layers of conditioning, fear, and expectations that have been placed upon you since childhood. It is a return to your original state, to your pure essence. And when this inner change solidifies, when you truly feel whole and complete inside, something extraordinary and inevitable begins to happen in your external reality. The universe, which is a mirror of your consciousness, begins to reflect this new wholeness. Things start to fall into place in a way that seems magical. The right opportunities appear, the right people are drawn into your life, and synchronicity becomes your new language. And this change isn't gradual. It happens suddenly, like a leap. A change of state that takes you to an entirely new reality. In the world of quantum physics, an electron doesn't move from one energy orbit to another gradually, passing through all the points in between. It performs what is called a quantum leap. It literally disappears from one energy level and reappears instantly in another, without traversing the intervening space. It's an abrupt, radical, and total change of state. Its inner transformation, after a long period of pressure, heat, and integration, culminates in a very similar event in your life. It's not a gradual improvement. It's a paradigm shift. One day, you simply wake up, and the chronic anxiety that has plagued you for years is no longer there. The same criticism that once paralyzed you and plunged you into days of self-pity is now met with a playful, almost indifferent calm. The desperate need to prove your worth to others has dissolved into a silent and powerful self-acceptance. You haven't changed a little, you've changed state. This is your quantum leap. This is the moment when your vibration, your consciousness, your fundamental energy permanently shifts in frequency. You are no longer operating within the operating system of fear, scarcity, and doubt. You have upgraded to the system of love, trust, and abundance. And because your frequency has changed, the reality you attract must, by universal law, change as well. The universe has no choice but to present you with a reality that corresponds to your new vibration. That's why synchronicities become common, almost banal. The right people appear at the exact moment you need them. The opportunities you once desperately pursued now come to you with disconcerting ease. A casual conversation leads to a new job. A book that falls into your hands contains the answer you've been searching for months. Life stops being a struggle and becomes a dance, a flow of co-creation with the universe. This isn't magic in the superstitious sense of the word. It's the law of the universe in action. The universe doesn't reward desperate effort that comes from lack. It rewards alignment that comes from wholeness. When you align with your inner truth, when you become whole, the universe bends down to meet you. You stop chasing butterflies and instead tend to your garden, and the butterflies come to you. Something within you, at the most fundamental level of your being, in your spiritual DNA, has just shifted frequency. And this new frequency now attracts an entirely new reality. You look at your old life and barely recognize it. It seems like someone else's life. The person you were, with the problems they had, seems like a distant character from a movie you watched a long time ago. You haven't healed. You've become someone else. This new reality is the result of all the inner work you have done. The descent into darkness, the confrontation with the shadow, the integration of opposites, all of this was preparation for this leap. You accumulated potential energy throughout the process. And now, this energy has been released, propelling you into a new existential orbit. And in this new orbit, you are finally ready for the final phase of alchemy, the manifestation of inner gold. In alchemy, after the darkness of Nigredo and the purification of Albedo, comes the final and most glorious phase, Rubedo, the blushing. It is the moment when the king and queen, the sun and the moon, the opposites that you have integrated within yourself, unite in a sacred marriage. From this union is born the philosopher's stone, the manifestation of spiritual gold. Rubedo is not merely a state of being, but a state of action. It symbolizes wisdom incarnate, truth lived in the world. You don't just understand the concept of forgiveness, you become forgiveness. You don't just comprehend compassion, you radiate compassion from every pore of your being. Your very presence, without you saying a single word, becomes a catalyst for transformation for the people around you. They feel calmer, clearer, more authentic near you, because your high frequency invites them to rise as well. You become a tuning fork for truth. The gold you forged in the fire of your soul is not meant to be kept in a vault. It is meant to be spent, shared, lived. Your scars, once sources of shame and pain, now become the map of your wisdom. You tell your story not with bitterness or self-pity, but with a silent authority that can only come from someone who has been to hell and returned, bringing light with them. Your story ceases to be about your pain and becomes about the power of resurrection. The power that emerges within you at this stage is not the power of the ego, which seeks to dominate, control, and be right. It is the power of the soul, which seeks to serve, uplift, and empower others. You find joy not in accumulating for yourself, but in contributing to the whole. Your life purpose becomes crystal clear, not as a job or a career, but as the unique expression of your essence in the world. You do what you do not to gain something, but because not doing it would be a betrayal of who you have become. You become a beacon, not because you try to shine, but because you are light. People are drawn to you not by what you have, but by who you are. The pain that almost destroyed you, that led you to the depths of Nigredo, now reveals itself, undeniably, as the source of your brilliance. You understand, at a cellular level, that the lead of your suffering was the essential ingredient for the transmutation into the gold of your consciousness. Without the darkness, your brilliance would not have the same depth. At this stage, life becomes a work of art. You live with intention, presence, and gratitude. Each moment is an opportunity to express your truth. You are no longer trying to get somewhere because you realize you've already arrived. The destination has always been the path itself, the journey of becoming who you are. The search is over. Now, the expression begins. You stop looking for happiness and start radiating it. And this radiance, this manifestation of your inner gold, is your true resurrection. Not a single, spectacular event, but a continuous state of being, a new way of living that is silent, powerful, and profoundly transformative, both for you and for the world around you. The great resurrection myths, from Osiris to Christ, from the phoenix to Inanna, all point to the same archetypal truth. True life is only found on the other side of a symbolic death. But the resurrection you experience is not a grand event with celestial trumpets and crowd applause. It is a silent resurrection. It happens on an ordinary day, in the middle of your routine, when you find yourself smiling for no reason at all, feeling a wave of pure and inexplicable joy. It happens when you look at an old photo and see the person you were, not with judgment or shame, but with tenderness and serene gratitude for everything they went through, so that you could exist today. It happens when you feel such a deep and stable peace that nothing outside, no bad news, no criticism, no crisis, can shake it. You realize that your peace no longer depends on anything external to exist, because it has become your own nature. You survived. You went through what seemed designed to destroy you. And not only did you survive, but you became something stronger, wiser, and more beautiful because of it. But the ultimate victory isn't about survival. It's about the quality of life you now live. You carry your past not as a heavy burden dragging you down, but as the solid foundation upon which you've built your new self. Every wound has become a pillar of strength. You are no longer afraid of your own imperfection, because you have found beauty in your own cracks, in the places where the light has entered. You no longer fear loneliness, because you have discovered the deepest and most constant companionship within yourself. You can spend days alone and feel completely nourished and at peace, because you have become your best friend, your lover, and your guide. The need to have someone to feel complete has simply disappeared. This is the true return. It's not about regaining what you lost, your old job, your old relationship, your old life. It's about finally receiving what was always meant for you, but in a much higher form, aligned with who you have become. A deeper and more conscious love, a clearer and more impactful purpose, a stronger and unwavering faith, based on direct experience and not on inherited beliefs. You have been resurrected, but not to your old life, with its anxieties, attachments, and fears. You have been resurrected to an entirely new existence, lived from a place of wholeness, freedom, and silent power. You no longer react to life. You dance with it. You no longer try to control the flow. You become the flow. The struggle is over. The inner war is over. And you were the victor in surrendering. And as you live from this new place, you finally understand the purpose of the entire journey. Every tear, every dark night, every moment of despair, it was all worth it. Everything was perfectly designed to lead you to this exact moment, to this state of being. And you realize that this long and painful journey was, in fact, a path back home. The greatest privilege in life, as Carl Jung said, is to become who you truly are. And now you understand. The entire journey, with all its painful twists and turns, with all its darkness and despair, was a long and winding road back home. Not to your childhood home or any physical place, but to the home of your soul, to your authentic self that waited patiently, under the rubble of your conditioned self, for you to finally find it. You stop searching for answers outside yourself, in books, gurus, or videos. You begin to trust your own inner voice, that silent whisper that always knew the way, but was constantly drowned out by the noise of your mind and the world. You learn to distinguish the voice of fear from the voice of intuition. And by following that inner voice, your life unfolds with a grace and perfection that no logical mind could have planned. You look back and understand that you were never late. You were always being trained. You were never lost. You were always being led back to yourself, even when it seemed like you were going in circles. Every detour, every dead end, was a necessary lesson that prepared you for the next step of the journey. Not a single moment was wasted. Everything had a divine purpose. And now, standing in this new place of clarity, power, and peace, you look to the horizon and realize that the journey is not over. In fact, it has only just begun. But the big difference is that now, you no longer travel as a refugee fleeing pain or as an orphan searching for a home. You travel as a sovereign exploring your own kingdom, curious, excited, and open to the wonders that the universe has to offer. Your life is no longer a desperate search for happiness. It becomes a natural expression of fulfillment. Happiness is no longer a destination to be reached, but the fuel for your journey. You don't do things to be happy. You do things because you are already happy. And this subtle shift completely alters the quality of your life experience. The pressure disappears, and in its place, the joy of creation arises. The universe didn't end with you when your old life crumbled. In fact, it was just beginning. It was simply cleansing you, preparing you, strengthening you for your soul's true mission. And the story you will live from now on, the life you will create from this place of power and alignment, will be living proof of the power of transformation. You become the message. This is not the end of your story. It is the end of the story of your pain. It is the end of the story of your limitations. It is the end of the story of your insignificance. Now, your true story begins. The story of your greatness, your light, your power. This is not the end. It is the beginning of your legend. If you've made it this far, you're no longer the same person who started this video. You felt the calling. You understood the process. Your quantum shift is no longer a promise. It's an ongoing reality. To seal this moment and anchor this new energy, leave a comment below with the phrase, "My return has already begun." If this message resonated deeply with you and you feel called to help this channel grow and spread more content like this, there's a way to contribute more directly. In the first pinned comment, you'll find a link to support our work. Any help you can give is very important to me and to the growth of the channel, allowing this wisdom to reach more people who are ready to awaken. But understand that just the fact that you've made it to the end is already a huge help. If you can't contribute financially, you can still help a lot by sharing this video with someone you feel needs to hear this message. And before you leave, your journey doesn't have to end here. We've prepared a special video for you to take the next step, content that will delve even deeper into what we've discussed. So don't leave yet. Click on the video that's currently appearing on the screen, and let's meet there.